So instead of being disappointed by Metroid Prime 4 Friday, I ended up hating FNAF 2 so much that I put this review together. Oh boy, where do I begin? Let me start by saying this. I did watch the first FNAF movie when it came out, and I watched it again before going into this one. And my thoughts are pretty much the same since I first saw it. It's not something that will revolutionize video game movies, and it has many problems, but is overall enjoyable. It has charm, a likable cast, fun Easter eggs, and was made to please the fans of the early games, which is what I am. I used to theorize a lot about FNAF back in the day, theorizing who did the bite of 87 and pieced together the timeline. So it was cool seeing these things come to life on the big screen. Now going into this movie, my expectations weren't high. I was expecting something that stayed relatively close to the second game, while at the same time being a bit better than the first movie, with them learning from the mistakes of the first one, digging into as much of the horror angle as they can, and giving us more Shaggy, I mean William Afton. What I instead got was an overstuffed mess that felt like its finger was on the fast forward button. It made me question how Blumhouse managed to make the first film work. Now it's not insulting, and it doesn't make you regret being a fan of the franchise, unlike with the original Super Mario Bros. Movie or Mortal Kombat, but it's still pretty bad. I'm going to keep this review as spoiler free as possible in case you want to watch it, but I can't voice my frustrations about this film without going into light spoilers, so you've been warned. The first thing I have to tell you guys is that the trailers are very misleading. They make it seem like the plot of this movie is that the toy animatronics are going around town trying to kill people, leaving Mike, Vanessa, and Abby to try and stop them somehow. But that's already in the third act, and the toy animatronics barely do anything there. You spend more time with them at the new location than you do with this fun concept, and they barely do anything at the new location. In all honesty, you could have had this film take place in the first location and nothing would have changed. In fact, I think it would have helped this movie. There's just so much wasted potential here, with the prime example being Matt Pat, who was wasted as Toy Bonnie. He only has a few lines of dialogue as opposed to Megan Fox as Toy Chica, who does so much more. It feels like such a disservice. Guy has been theorizing about FNAF for almost a decade, and this is what you do with him? The first film did him more justice, and he only had a cameo there. It's now that I think about it, the toy animatronics as a whole barely do anything, with the number of kills they achieve here being laughable. In the game, zero another obstacle for you to fight off against as you try and survive the night. Here, they serve no purpose and are no different from the original FNAF animatronics. Now if you look at the FNAF 2 game, it's pretty similar in terms of gameplay, story, and lore, so it shouldn't be an issue to adapt. The problem is that they keep on adding stuff to this movie, with more and more as it goes on, with, I kid you not, a whole new set of animatronics during the third act. That proved to be useless. Although I do like what happens to Balloon Boy at that point. Annoying little shit. In all honesty, if you replace the toy ones with the original ones, it would give the film more depth. The only reason these guys are in this movie is to be faithful to the second game. And as crazy as it sounds, that's one of its biggest problems. I know it sounds weird saying this with video game movies in the past doing a poor job of adapting stuff from their source material, but hear me out. It tries to bring in everything from the second game, and because of that, it has no breathing room to explore the ideas and concepts it introduces, leaving a lot of things underutilized. Take a look at Sonic 3. While it was an adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2, it did try to cram everything from the game into the movie. And that's the key. You don't need to put everything your movie is based on into it. In that movie, they picked and chose what they wanted to bring in, as well as what they wanted to leave out, all the while keeping the most important elements in and sticking to what made the game so special. Here it tries to, and everything else suffers as a result. Although it doesn't help that a lot of this film's plot relies on everyone being an asshole. I'm not kidding you, everyone is an asshole here to a ludicrous degree. It gets to such a point where it takes you out of the movie entirely. While you want them in your horror movie because let's be real, you want to see them killed, it doesn't help if they're all like that, especially your main character. For example, Mike is mad at Vanessa because her dad killed more kids, even though he already knew this from the first film. And if anything, he should have been more upset that her father killed his brother, which was something already addressed in the first one. But this arc goes nowhere, and while they do give Abby more to do, she's treated more like a plot device than an actual character. The movie tries to set her up to be important, but it does nothing with her by the end and she becomes a MacGuffin. What makes this even more infuriating is that you had so much you could have done with them, as you clearly laid out their motivations from the beginning. Abby wants to fix Freddy and everyone else. Vanessa is dealing with the guilt and trauma from her father. And Mike wants to live a normal life. But they all either go nowhere or complete it in unfulfilling ways. Again, compare this with the first FNAF film. It felt like everyone had a reason to be there. They had their own goals, their own arcs, what they wanted to accomplish. None of that is here. They were able to accomplish all of that while juggling a bigger cast. Speaking of the first film, this one reuses a lot of beats from the first one. A prime example is how they show how scary the new animatronics are. So when the cannon fodder people arrive, you instantly know that they're going to die. There's even a villain twist like in the first one that comes out of nowhere, but it just doesn't land. While the William Afton reveal can't feel like it came out of left field, it's at least rooted in the games. This one is kind of rooted in the games, but because there's no proper setup, it comes even more out of pocket. Speaking of Afton, why didn't you use him? He was teased to be alive in the first movie, and it would have been a lot cooler to see him as Springtrap, unlike what we got here. Like I said, the first film wasn't Shakespeare, but it didn't have so many plot holes that it could be considered Swiss cheese. Plots are dropped, held together by things that don't make any sense. There's a mystery regarding the original animatronics from the first movie, but it's not explained until the end. And even then, it's brushed aside and makes no sense. And what happens to them in the end is so underwhelming, it happens so fast, it's insulting. Although it doesn't help that everyone in this movie is an idiot, with the most outrageous example being when they decide to pay homage to the gameplay of the second game. The way Mike learns how to get around the animatronics is done so much better in the trailers, and he doesn't even use it half the time. It also doesn't help that none of the plot points get resolved by the end of the movie, with the ending feeling more like a setup towards the next one. And if you know the lore of the games when a specific line is spoken, you're like, oh, they're doing that next. And instead of being excited for it, you're hoping they won't butcher it. And by the end, you're left dissatisfied with everyone off in a worse state. Now, I will give the movie this. It tries to be more of a horror movie. While the first film wasn't at times, this one does try to lean more into it. However, it's still held back by the fact that it's a PG-13 film, so it really can't delve into the horror aspect too much. And I get why it's PG-13. The movie is made for kids, so you can't lean too much into it without getting stabbed with an R rating, but the first movie was able to work around this limitation. Hell, our core trio isn't even in danger for most of the film. What makes this even more baffling is that there are so many horror elements in FNAF 2, like the music box and the vents. While those ideas are here, they are used in the lamest way possible, and are used only in one segment instead of a means to survive throughout the film. And this is where I think they should have chosen if they wanted the animatronics to be outside, or have them stay in the pizzeria and into whatever setting they choose. Instead, we get this weird half and half setting and none of them reach their full potential. But I will say this, when it does delve into horror, it's actually pretty cool, with the puppet being the best part of the film. Her and another cameo that I'm not going to spoil. They do a lot of creative stuff with her, and they do stuff with her that isn't even in the games and help ups the creepiness factor. Whenever the movie focuses on the puppet, she steals the spotlight, and it feels like an actual horror movie. But at the same time, I can't help but feel she's underutilized. She's an important aspect in the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, and here she feels pretty much one note. If anything, she should have been the only new animatronic in this film and been the main antagonist from beginning to end, with the movie giving her more focus. She doesn't even have a clear goal, as it keeps on switching so you don't get an idea of what she wants by the end of the film. And just like the last one, the animatronics look great here. And even though we don't spend much time there, the new pizzeria also looks good. You have to give credit to the prop team and puppeteers who made these. They look like they came directly from the games, and it shows that the people behind this movie do somewhat care about this franchise. Shame I can't say the same thing about the rest of the movie. FNAF 2 is the definition of good ideas, bad execution, and wasted potential. It had all the ingredients needed to make something great, but fumbled the bag in every conceivable way. If they narrowed down the focus, trim a lot of the fat, slowed down the pace, and deliver what it promised us in the trailers, then it could have been great. But instead, we got this mess. So where do I place this movie in terms of a tier list? F tier. You know what annoys me the most about this movie? It's the fact that we're at the age where people have finally cracked the code for good video game movies. Mario and Sonic proved that they could be good and rake in a huge amount of money. Even the last FNAF movie proved this. This one feels like a step back. Now, I'm not saying this movie won't make any money. It absolutely will, looking at this weekend's box office. For crying out loud, we live in a world where the Minecraft movie cost $1 billion, and everyone hated that movie. I think diehard fans and kids who really enjoyed the first one will also like this one. But other people like myself who are normies and or casual fans of the franchise will hate this one. It should have been produced much longer. It feels like it was hastily put together to meet a 2025 release. It needed another round of rewrites, and it shows. And because of this one, the third one and maybe the movie franchise is now in jeopardy. If I was in charge, I'd course correct and figure out what went wrong. Focus on the stuff you promised at the end of this movie. Don't adapt everything from the game you're trying to adapt. Pick only the parts your story needs. Tighten up the script a bit more. Let things breathe. Learn from the likes of Mario and Sonic. And maybe wait until 2028 to release FNAF 3. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What do you think? Drop your tier ranking in the comments. I'm curious if anyone would rate this higher than a C. Anyways, I'll see y'all later.